Yo, what is up guys, Dubois here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick prediction, I guess, for Filip Hrgovic versus Daniel Dubois. Of course this fight goes down in Saudi Arabia on the Matchroom versus Queensberry card. Now I have to say, I'm having a harder time calling this fight than a lot of people are. From what I gather online, most people are picking Hergovich, and picking Hergovich by stoppage. I fully understand why, given the deficiencies in Daniel Dubois' technical game, but more importantly his mental game. He's quit twice, whether people want to hear that or not. I know people say Dubois rebounded and redeemed himself with that Jarrell Miller win. And listen, Miller had some good moments at times, and Dubois looked good overall. But despite Miller having some good moments here and there, I never felt he asked sufficient questions of Dubois to where he would answer those questions that we have about him. So albeit, yeah, he looked good in that fight, it's still not enough for me to write off what we've seen from Dubois in the past. It was a good start, I'll say that. But I am still yet to be convinced, in regards to his mental deficiencies and certain aspects of his technical game. His opponent, Hergovich, is an interesting one. I think he's got the physical advantages to really trouble Dubois. Hergovich is taller at 6'6", Dubois 6'5". Hergovich has a 4-inch reach advantage. Hergovich has an 82-inch reach, whereas Dubois got a 78-inch reach. And Hergovich, for me, is more adept to boxing on the back foot, taking a half step back kind of thing, popping the jab, maintaining range a little bit. He certainly showed that in the amateurs and his early pro fights. And even against Zhili Zhang at times, when he was boxing going backwards, he was actually having some success against Zhang. Hergovich can box on the back foot. He's very awkward with it. He's got that lean back sort of style where he'd fence out the jab, and it's hard to gain the distance on him. Dubois struggled with that sort of style against Joe Joyce, of course, where Joyce was really primarily boxing off that jab. Sometimes he was taking the half step back, he was maintaining range. He'd ping Dubois with a jab and it would knock Dubois off balance throughout that fight. He was continuously making Dubois reset with that jab. And you look at Joe Joyce's performance that night, you look at what he was able to utilise against Dubois, his physical advantages, his movement, his height and reach. I can see Hergovich, if I was Hergovich, I would look at that fight to try and build off that. Try and keep this one at range, boxing behind the jab, using that lean back style, and ultimately try to make Dubois really work for the openings, and then maybe try to fire that kind of chopping overhand right across once Dubois leads in and leans over, looking for the shots reaching in. Hergovich has that kind of chopping overhand right that he can chop down. Dubois is slightly taller and can fight in a bit of a crouch, so that sort of scything over the top and down overhand right could be a good shot for him as Dubois coming in. I also want to see more with the lead hand from Hergovich in this bout. Hergovich, in his pro career so far, has not really shown much variation with the lead hand other than his jab. But in the amateurs, he did show a good left hook. He did show a good lead uppercut. These are shots I want to see incorporated into this fight with Dubois, providing he, takes that approach and tries to maintain range, boxing on the half step back kind of thing, trying to walk Dubois into shots. I want to see Hergovich utilise his awkward movement, his herky-jerky kind of style. For me, he's never really implemented it properly in his pro fights so far, not his step-up fights against Zhili Zhang, and to a lesser extent against Dempsey McKean. I felt he was very cumbersome in those fights. I want to see more movement, I want to see more dynamism from Hergovich. I want to see quicker hands, because he showed these attributes in the amateurs. Even his punch technique was better when he was a bit lighter, more snap on the punches. I hope Hergovich comes in a little lighter in this bout, and I want to see him ask questions of Dubois as this fight goes on, Try to make Dubois chase the fight, try to make him desperate, and ultimately try to install that anxiety and fear into Dubois' mind. If Hergovich can get that sort of start in this bout, I think he more than likely wins, to be honest with you, because Dubois, I think in chasing the fight, will start to tire, and then Hergovich will start to pick him off in a messy fight. Hergovich is kind of mean in the clinch. He's not scared to throw rabbit punches. he'll fight dirty. And as Dubois gets more and more desperate, I'm not sure he's up for that sort of fight, to be honest. I could see then Hergovich taking this into the second half and kind of grinding him down in a really ugly fashion. Dubois, in my opinion, needs to implement some of the attributes that he used in the Miller fight. Those being punches in bunches and working off a jab. What I liked about Dubois in that Miller fight was he was punching on the front foot. So basically he was stepping in as he was throwing combinations, and I think that's a very key strategy against a guy like Hergovich, against a guy who's got a lean back style, who leans back primarily to avoid punches. When you're a combination puncher and you can step in with these combination punches, you may miss with the first shot, but as the guy's leaning back, if you step in with the second shot, you can catch the guy unawares. I think combination punching for Dubois in this fight could be very important. It could result in maybe scoring an off-balance knockdown or something like that. Could even hurt Hergovich. Hergovich has shown a good chin, has to be said. But Dubois can hit hard. And if he can land on Hergovich and then land a follow-up, I think that's when he could maybe hurt Hergovich. I don't think he's going to hurt Hergovich with one singular shot. I think it will be like an accumulation of punches, like at the end of a combination kind of thing. So against a lean back type of guy, I think those combination punches while moving on the front foot could be key for Dubois. He needs to be working on his stamina in this fight. I think high output for Dubois is very important. High octane, very active with the lead hand for jab, double jab, triple jab, stepping in, punches in bunches, hooks to head, hooks to body. I want to see a lot of clean technical punching from Dubois because Hergovich, although he's awkward, I don't think his fundamentals are necessarily the best in terms of his defense. Like I said, primarily relies on the lean back. Does have a tendency to step back in straight lines. Sometimes he'll get himself trapped on the ropes. I want to see Dubois be aggressive, essentially be a pressure fighter, behind a nice tight high guard. Needs to be active with the guard and move his hands because Hergovich has the ability to kind of loop his punches around a guard, particularly with his overhand right. So can't be a static guard, has to be moving his hands a little bit. But I think he needs to be the pressure fighter in this bout. I ask questions of Dubois' heart, but I'm not convinced on Hergovich either. He showed me some bad signs in that Zhili Zhang fight. You know, turning his back and things like that. And don't get me wrong, he took some really good shots in that fight. And took them quite well, considering. But his body language in that fight looked off. If Dubois can have some sustained success landing some hard punches, it'll be interesting to see how Hergovich reacts. I know in the Zhang fight he lost his father going into it. And I'm sure emotionally he wasn't in a good place. But listen, again, ask for question, you know? It's a hard one to call in my opinion because I think Hergovich has really flattered to deceive as a pro. I don't think he's shown the promise that he's shown in the amateurs. And to me he's looked kind of sloppy, kind of lackadaisical. I think he's carried a bit too much weight in his recent fights. Like sort of 8-10 pounds too much. I mean when he turned pro, Hergovich was fighting in the 220s. And you could see in those fights he was a lot more fleet of foot. He threw punches in bunches a lot better, and he threw his punches quicker. He looked more dynamic, in my opinion. But, you know, since he's gone north of 240, I'll be honest, I've not really been impressed with any Hergovich performance. Whether that be Eric Molina, Zhili Zhang, Dempsey McKean. Even against Mark Demori, as one-sided as that fight was, I felt he looked sloppy, to be honest. I don't think being north of 240 helps him at all. That's just my opinion. I think it slows him down. I think it makes him a bit too cumbersome. And maybe Dubois can capitalise on that. Maybe he can. But ultimately it's a hard one to call. I'm asking questions of both men here. I'm not convinced on either guy. Gun to my head, I'm picking Hergovich to grind Dubois down late stoppage. But I think it's going to be competitive. I think Dubois is going to have his moments, but I guess I'll favour Hergovich to get a late stoppage. But would I be surprised if this fight goes either way? Not really. And that's why I like the fight. I don't really know where either guy's at. So I'm looking forward to it. It's an IBF eliminator, I believe, so it's an interesting one. A lot on the line here. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.